Welcome to Namely 90s. Wow. The podcast that takes you back to the time before smartphones, Google, and Y2K. Join your hosts as they relive the pop culture that shaped a generation and the parts that many people wish they could forget. Listen in to the conversation about how the decade defined those who spent their childhood there and how it shaped them as adults. So, turn down the grunge and dial up the internet. Let's get started. It's time for Namely 90s.
All right, you're listening to Namely 90s. This is, oh boy, forgot my line. This is Andrew. Over there is Brandon.
That's me.
It's off to a good start. You can find us on the internet at namely90s.com or on Twitter at namely90s. That's with a 90s. And as soon as I stop having a seizure, we'll proceed with the show. I don't know. I'm blaming the air quality. Anyway,
not your recording lights.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think I just ate too much Jack in the Box before I started, so now I feel kind of fuzzy. Anyway, this week we are going to talk about September of 1993, and to start us off, we'll go over to Brandon, who's going to tell us what was going on.
All right, let's join us as we travel back to September of 1993. On the 13th, one of the One Direction kids was born. I believe his name is Niall. Not Neil. Niall.
Niall. Okay, sure. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
It is 2020.
On the 18th, the LA Mighty Ducks play their first preseason game against the Penguins. That's first hockey NHL game ever.
Right.
Yes.
Were they LA back then, not Anaheim?
They were.
Weird.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the whole point of the second Mighty Ducks movie.
I like how you assume it had a point.
As a promotional, as a promotional movie to promote the new, because the kids upgraded their jerseys to be the new jerseys of the Mighty Ducks.
And now they're just the Anaheim Ducks.
Yes, the Mighty's gone and they're in Anaheim. They used to be the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim up until a few years ago.
Yep.
And on the 22nd, Nolan Ryan, pitcher, who is famous for pitching, he pitches his last game. I always thought he was older than... I thought he was like Babe Ruth era pitching.
Really?
I did, but he's not. He retired in the 90s. And that's all I have for interesting events. So on to television premieres. 1993 is a big time for 90s television, starting on the 6th with the premiere of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, the animated series.
Nice.
On the 7th, the Chevy Chase show was, yeah.
Oh, that's a thing?
Yeah, the talk show. You may remember it as a one-off joke from Family Guy when they travel. I think it was one of the death episodes, and Peter accidentally doesn't end up with Lois. So in that universe, 1, Al Gore is president. 2, Dick Cheney killed all the people that he went hunting with.
God.
3, and this Chevy Chase is the host of The Tonight Show, which was the joke.
This doesn't sound familiar. That's weird because I usually have an encyclopedic knowledge of Family Guy.
It's the one where Peter asked Death to take him back in time so he could party like he was a teenager again.
Oh, right. I do remember the episode, huh? Weird.
Yeah. Quagmire marries Lois. And then Brian's just flipping through the TV and they're like, President Gore announces world peace and then Dick Cheney hunted down and killed all like his hunting party, and then Peter's like, I don't know who those people are, and then the next channel is Now Tonight with Chevy Chase, and Peter's like, oh God, we screwed up bad, Brian, we screwed up bad. Also, his talk show was canceled on October 1st.
Okay, good.
So started on the 7th. Less than a month.
Whoa.
You can actually see a short clip on our visual version of the podcast in the intro of the Chevy Chase show. On the 10th, Bill Nye the Science Guy premieres alongside the X-Files.
Yes. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
That's perfect.
On the 11th, we have Saved by the Bell, the new class. And also the cartoon SWAT Cats, the Radical Squadron, which I apparently watched as a child. 12th, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, which last episode I accidentally said The New Adventures of Superman when I meant Superman the Animated Series. And also on the 12th, Sequest DSV, featuring that kid that killed himself eventually.
Oh, God.
And then on the 13th, we had the premiere of Animaniacs on Fox and Late Night with Conan O'Brien on NBC.
So good. Okay, seriously, there's some good shows.
On the 14th, we have Saved by the Bell, The College Years.
No.
The 16th, Frasier, the little-known spinoff from Cheers.
Hey, a Seattle thing that actually had traction. It's amazing.
Yeah. That's a good point. On the 18th, we also had Biker Mice from Mars, which was another cartoon, as well as Sonic the Hedgehog, not to be confused with The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, both animated series, both premiering on the same network, I believe, within the same month. One was notoriously bad. The other one was actually kind of good.
That makes no sense.
Right? And one was voiced by Jameel White, I believe his name is, Urkel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I brought this up before. And then also on the 18th, Rocco's Modern Life premiered as well.
Classic.
And then the 21st, NYPD Blue, the show that probably pushed the most boundaries in the early 90s. That's the show that was like, oh my God, did you see they showed his bare ass on network TV last night? And then on the 24th, Boy Meets World premieres, which you mentioned you didn't like.
No, not really.
Yeah. And then in the box office, I don't know why I said plural. There are a couple movies that I wanted to mention. On the 8th, we had The Joy Luck Club. Apparently that was like a big thing for
Sounds
Asian
familiar.
people. It's like a bunch of old Asian ladies playing mahjong, I think. Never seen. Chinese. 17th, Airborne, which was the other rollerblading movie that I mentioned back when we talked about Brink. And on the 24th, Dazed and Confused, which gave us the classic Matthew McConaughey line. All right. And then finally,
I love that.
Yeah, to finish the Billboard charts for the third week of September. Number 1, Dream Lover by Mariah Carey is 3 weeks, or has been going for 3 weeks after UB40 came in from July and August. And then, so we also have number 2 is Whoop, There It Is by Tag Team. Number 3, we have Can't Help Falling in Love by UB40, which was the number 1 at the beginning of the month. Number 15, I'm Going to Be 500 Miles by the Proclaimers. Number 20, Insane in the Brain by Cypress Hill. And number 24, Check Yourself by Ice Cube.
I always do.
Yeah. So I have a litany of topics that I want to talk about today. So,
okay.
And
Shoot.
they were all mentioned, and most of them are TV. This is going to be a TV episode, everyone, because this is the month of September. I thought we'd start with Bill Nye.
Bill. Okay, yeah, seriously.
He's also a Seattle icon.
I do know that. Mm-hmm. Yep.
He had a BS in mechanical engineering from Cornell, and he took an astronomy class from Carl Sagan. Worked for Boeing.
BS is right. No, just kidding.
Worked for Boeing for about a decade in the late 70s through the early 80s. He quit in 1986 to follow a career in comedy and he was on Almost Live. Do you remember Almost Live?
I was just going to say that.
Mm-hmm. Seattle's, for those of you that don't know, that's Seattle's sketch comedy show that aired after SNL. But he was only a freelancer. Other people that are famous for coming from Almost Live, Joel McHale was on it.
Oh, yeah.
And later on in the 90s. And then for Seattle locals, Pat Cashman was on it, I believe, as well as...
I feel like that's the guy who voices over the Taco Time commercials.
Does he do that? That's funny. Yeah. He was a radio host at one point, wasn't he?
I don't remember, actually, but he was pretty good.
Yeah. And then, let's see. So... Yeah, Bill Nye, I have some more stuff on him. His other main recurring role on Almost Live was as Speed Walker, a speedwalking Seattle superhero who fights crime while maintaining strict adherence to the regulations of the International Speedwalking Association. So how Bill got his nickname, it was a famous incident on the show which led to his stage name. He corrected Keister on his pronunciation of the word gigawatt. Most likely saying gigawatt because that's what they said in Back to the Future, because Christopher Lloyd didn't know how to pronounce it either. And then Keister responded, "Who do you think you are, Bill Nye the Science Guy?" And then after a guest canceled, co-host Ross Schaefer told Nye that he had 7 minutes of programming to fill, and why don't you do that science stuff? So,
wow.
Nye entertained the audiences with a comical demonstration, including what happened when you ate a marshmallow that had been dipped in liquid nitrogen. Thank you, Wikipedia, for all of that information.
Wow. What a good show. Do other markets have things like Almost Live? I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder that too. Because I know around here in San Luis Obispo, so Central Coast, California, Santa Barbara County, SLO County. After SNL, we have just like a local travel show, and it's not California Gold. So wow, that's amazing, guy. Yeah, Adam Carolla always talked about him.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, there's this guy, he died in the last 5 years, I think. And he would go around to like small California towns and like go to the most regular place, like a cobbler or something, and be like, the guy would show him how to make a shoe, and he'd just
guy.
Wow, that's amazing.
They played clips of it at one point.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. But so unfortunately, that's not what follows SNL here. It's more just cheap public access type stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And you're probably not awake if I remember correctly, the 90s, the Arsenio Hall show used to follow. No. Live at the Apollo used to follow SNL, which was I believe a black sketch comedy show, which also was on Family Guy.
Yeah, that was a funny one.
Brian shuts off the TV. He's like, "What? I'm not racist. I'm tired." Yeah. So what do you remember about Bill Nye, the science guy?
I watched it pretty religiously, so to speak.
Really?
And oh yeah, no, it's a good show. I like to think that it's where I got some of my my science, my love of the science is. Apparently I don't have a love of the English language, so I can't speak that. But no, it was. I always liked that show, and then any of the science-related episodes of the Magic School Bus, because I was kind of at that age where I watched both. So, no, I love me some Bill Nye the Science Guy.
I always enjoyed it when we got to watch it in class instead of actually doing something in science class. Again, shout out to our statutory rapist middle school science teacher, Mr. Beresford. I think that's where I watched most of the Bill Nye episodes.
Yeah, he was busy with other things.
like a high school
Creeping around.
TA. Yeah.
Recruiting more TAs. Yeah.
Oh God. But yeah, do you remember any specific episodes? I know recently he had a show on Netflix, and he also, well, actually the one Bill Nye thing that I remember the most right now is he's on an episode of Stargate Atlantis with himself and who's the new Carl Sagan, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
They're all at a conference, and I think something Stargatey happens.
Once again, I have no specific recollections of the show. I just remember watching it and enjoying it quite thoroughly.
Yeah, he did a good job of explaining sciencey stuff to children.
I feel like there's still segments that I reference occasionally.
I feel like there was one where he did like a balloon over over something exploding so that it would fill the balloon type experiment. You know, like Coca-Cola and Mentos type thing.
I was looking this up and someone said, is Bill Nye a real scientist? What does that question even mean?
Technically, he is not, right?
Anyone's a scientist,
right? For the like, he has a Bachelor of Science, but it's in mechanical engineering. He's an engineer,
which is like you can't have engineering without science. I don't know. I just feel like anyone's a scientist if they use the scientific method.
He's not a technician, that's for sure.
That's true.
Because as my understanding is, a tech is underneath a engineer.
Oh, he had a pretty big guest list.
Oh,
Christopher Walken, Samuel L. Jackson, John Ratzenberger.
I'm gonna pull a Patton and Andrew. I'm Christopher Walken here.
Siskel and Ebert, Bob Ross, Soundgarden, Kenny G, Pat Sajak, Vanna White, Cirque du Soleil.
I think I remember that one.
Who else? Alfonso Ribeiro, of course. Sinbad, naturally. Edgar Martinez, Nate McMillan, Drew Barrymore. Wow, that's quite the list.
Yeah, especially going from two Seattle sports icons to Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. And everything from 93 to 98. Yeah, it was just a very good show. I kind of want to go back and watch it, honestly.
Yeah, it popped up that he was also animated into the Back to the Future animated series, which is garbage, by the way, to help
Raise
Doc
your
Brown.
hand if you're shocked by that.
I can't see you, right?
I know. I wasn't raising my hand.
Fair enough. Neither was I. Yeah, I mean, since the series bookends itself by destroying the DeLorean, so naturally the animated series, if I remember correctly, focuses around Doc Brown and his flying train with his family.
What now? Was he a scientist?
We'll have to Google it. Yeah. So Bill Nye, shout out to Bill Nye.
Shout out.
He was the science guy. He is the science guy. Yeah. Any other Bill Nye thoughts?
I don't think I do. Yeah. Well, there was that debate he had with that one guy.
Oh yeah, the Creationist Museum.
Yeah.
That was 8-9 years ago now.
Let's click.
Yeah. So for those of you that
6 years ago.
6 years ago. For those of you that aren't, well, if you have it in front of you, why don't you say it?
Oh, what's that?
What you're talking about?
Well, there's a debate between Bill Nye and Ken Ham on the question, is creation a viable model of origins, on February 4th, 2014.
And this was all at a creationist museum because they refused to display any, well, I think the word scientific models of evolution. And I'm pretty sure they didn't have dinosaurs at this museum, which kind of sucks. And they had like a full on debate about creationism versus evolution.
Right. And allegedly they say that Bill Nye won the debate, but how do you judge a debate like that?
Well, debates are structured in a point system, and it's more about evidence that you present and how you refute the other person's argument.
If that's the standard by which they're judged, and you're a creationist, aren't you already like destined to lose?
Yes.
Okay, well, there you go. There you have it.
But that's coming from a science guy.
That's but like who's judging it and by what criteria? And if the criteria are not universally agreed upon, then the debate really has no merit whatsoever.
Well, yeah. Do you not remember 7th grade when we had to do debate and oh wait, you weren't in the same LA class. Well, in our language arts class, we had to do a debate. Like there's debate, or in high school, there's debate club and stuff like that. It's even if you're presenting, what other people probably wouldn't believe as fact, or baseless. I think it's like a point structure debate system.
No, I know, but I suppose the parties have to agree on what would cause it to be. What would cause someone to win?
Yeah.
And if the people judging it were saying whoever uses the most Bible verses wins, well, then obviously the other guy would win. But if they said we're judging this based on how much scientific evidence is presented, then there's no way that person could win. So it's like, how do you judge a debate where the two sides so drastically differ?
I mean, I would watch any high school debate. Like I had to do abortion, pro versus against. They're completely opposite sides of the spectrum. Or not abortion,
but
euthanasia.
I feel like
the burden of proof.
Yeah, the burden of proof is way different.
It's not a courtroom. It's like you can cite. I don't know. Have you ever watched like a debate?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you have two sides that like fundamentally just differ on the universe, it's hard for them to agree. Like, oh, well, he said more science, so he wins, or he, like, how do you determine what's legitimate information and determine who wins as a result of that? Like, I don't feel like there's many people in the middle,
I think I see what you're saying, but I think you're missing the fundamentals of how a debate works. It's not like an ephemeris debate like we're having right now. It's there's like strict rules to how how much time you have, how your argument is structured, and what information you have to back up your argument, and like that's what your points are based off of, and how much it either how much it reinforces your point of view versus how much it discredits the other side, I guess. Yeah, it's
interesting.
It's not like he changed the mind of this creationist. It's he presented his argument to a third party, and the third party, based on the entire judgment of how things were presented and whatnot, declared Bill Nye the winner of said debate.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, there
high school debate. Yeah. Speaking of things that you don't want to talk about, Boy Meets World. We touched upon the fact that you didn't like this show a few episodes ago.
I mean, I don't know that I specifically didn't like it. It's just
you just don't like
that
things.
I took the time. I didn't take the time to watch it, and I wasn't like an avid follower of the story. I mean, if it was on, great. If not, whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, for those of you that don't remember, it's a show about Corey Matthews, who starts out as, I believe, an 8th grader. He's in middle school when we start. He has an older brother named Eric. I always thought you and your brother kind of had a similar relationship and age gap. And he has a best friend named Sean Sean Hunter, and falls in love with this girl named Topanga Lawrence. And we follow him from middle school to high school to college, and somehow they had the same teacher for literally all of it.
Somehow all of it, yeah.
Mr. Feeney.
Oh, hey, our statutory rapist teacher followed us from middle school to high school, so
that's true.
It can happen.
Well,
he was caught before he could come to our college, which we went to separate ones and high schools.
I feel like if he was a statutory rapist, he wouldn't want to come with you to college.
Probably true. Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought it was really cool because it focused on real situations that kids would face. It was a good family
peer
show.
Peer pressure and smoking.
I like how that's the first thing I have written down is peer pressure. I remember the one episode. So Corey eventually proposes to Topanga when they're at Disney World, if I remember correctly, or they get married there, one or the other. I think they eloped at Disney World.
And then they get COVID there.
Yes.
No, it was Universal Studios Orlando. Sorry.
And then then this is right after they ended high school and are heading to college, so they end up living together at college, and you see some marital strain because they're poor single family in college.
Right.
I don't know. So the one episode I remember the most is a Halloween episode, which was like a slasher episode. It had the one of the characters dressed up as like the murderer from Scream.
Oh yeah,
and it turned out it was Sean that was killing everyone, but it was all in his head because they were in detention. But it was supposed to be a allegory because he was losing his friends, and I think he just broke up with his girlfriend Angela, and he didn't. I don't remember, but it was like he murders everyone, and I'm like, you're friends with this dude? Yeah. Anyway, I also just wanted to, since we're on the subject, bring up the sequel series Girl Meets World, which aired in 2014 for 3 seasons, and it starred Corey and Topanga again, with their daughter Riley, and her best friend Maya. And the only problem was this wasn't on ABC, it was on the Disney Channel, and they were just a little too real for the Disney Channel because they tackled the same sort of issues just 20 years later, like peer pressure, homelessness, online bullying, being yourself, stuff. It's
the morning after pill. No, just kidding.
They were a little young for that because I think they also started in middle school, or no, first day of high school. I don't remember. And then Corey's now their teacher for the entirety of the series. Yeah.
Why do they keep doing that?
And Riley was the best friend. Riley had a best friend named Maya, and she was street smart because just exactly like Sean, her parents weren't around either.
Did you watch this whole series?
I watched the entire series. I binge watched Boy Meets World before it started and then watched the entire series. I didn't.
You can't see the grimace I'm making as you talk about that.
I'll see it later when I edit the video. It was legitimately good. Like, I would recommend you watching it with your children when they're old enough.
Fuller House good or
better than Fuller House? Fuller House is garbage, even though I watched all that too. Girl Meets World makes me feel like there was actually some sort of, well, one, there's a decent plot, not some stupid contrivance, and actually tackles real issues that seem like it's worth talking about, and resolved in a normal way. So yeah.
I promise if you can't see me, but I'm currently, it looks like I'm having a seizure because my eyes are so itchy. I apologize.
Oh, you're not just grimacing still?
No, the air quality in here is poor at best.
And then I have a lot, so I thought we should just we'll save Saved by the Bell for another time. Just want to touch on Airborne because I have this movie on my DVR. It's another rollerblading movie. Seth Green and a young Jack Black are in it.
Oh, yeah, you referenced that one.
Yes. It's about this California surfer bro that rollerblades, but his parents are going to South Africa because they're scientists or something. And he's forced to move to the Midwest and move in with his cousin and aunt and uncle. Seth Green is the cousin. And then just like Brink, it ends in a downhill race, except this, which I confused with the other one. But this one, it ends with him jumping off of a parking garage onto the bed of a dump truck, sliding down that, and then into the lead and winning.
Like several low angle shots, all from different angles, repeated.
Yes. Yes, that shot does exist. I'll see if I could throw this in there.
It was like in Walker, Texas Ranger, he'd like roundhouse kick someone and they would show it from three different angles.
Yep.
So good.
Also, Dazed and Confused, I feel like we should talk about real quick. I think that was Ben Affleck's first role. He was like some like supporting character. One line. Oh, wait, no. There was that other movie that he was in. Anyway.
Didn't he have like one line? Yeah.
Yeah. Different movie. Also, Jason London, Matthew McConaughey, Parker Posey, Joey Lauren Adams. She's the girl from Chasing Amy. She has that really low, raspy voice that everyone hates. Mila Jovovich, Rory Cochrane, who's in Empire Records, CSI Miami. He was Speedle, or Speed. Remember, Speed kills. And then Anthony Rapp, who's in Rent and Star Trek Discovery, and Adam Goldberg, all in this teen coming of age movie about some kid trying to get spanked by bros with paddles.
Those were not. I didn't recognize a lot of those names.
Matthew McConaughey.
Well, okay, yes, yeah, yes.
I'm sure if you Googled any of them, you would probably recognize.
You're right. Anyway, well, what do we have time? Well, what's next?
Do you have time? I thought we should talk about Conan Coco.
Sure. Yeah.
So just some background. He was a writer on SNL with Bob Odenkirk back in the late 80s. Bob Odenkirk from Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I know who that is.
He left SNL after a pilot he wrote wasn't picked up and his engagement was called off in 1991. Yeah. He has a story about just walking around New York thinking he would find his next thing. He joined the Simpsons writing staff from 91 to 93 while dating Lisa Kudrow.
Oh, I did not know that. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And he wrote Marge versus the Monorail, Homer Goes to College, 2 of the top 10, 20. Yeah. Also, New Kid on the Block and Treehouse of Horror 4, which is the one that had Ned Flanders as the devil and Homer eating that in hell being stuffed with donuts. Then David Letterman left late night for CBS, and Conan was picked as the replacement. He and NBC had to buy out the rest of his contract from Fox, and he helmed that show from 1993 to 2009. Then he was picked to replace Leno on The Tonight Show, which he did for a year. Then NBC screwed him, brought Leno back. Fallon had taken over late night. They didn't want to get rid of him.
Yep.
So Conan went on his tour for a year or two and then started a late night talk show on TBS called Conan.
Mm-hmm.
And then also they started a podcast last year, late 2018, called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. And I just wanted to say that I'm with Coco.
It's a good show all the way around. I mean, notable things, obviously tying this in, the Walker Texas Ranger lever. That was good. He did get really screwed with the whole shake up over there at NBC, obviously. What else? I feel like his brand of humor wasn't necessarily for everybody, though. Jimmy Fallon is very vanilla and just like very palatable for most.
Yeah, I feel like Conan was the Gen X late night host.
Well, it was when Conan's stuff was funny, it was hysterical. But when it wasn't that funny, we're just kind of like, huh? You know,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, but he also like triumphed the insult comic dog.
See, that was funny. Yeah, that was funny.
Was that Bob Odenkirk?
No, somebody else. But
but it's someone. And then like in the year 2000 or 3000. Sorry.
I also liked he toured an American Girl doll store. Did you ever watch that one?
I think I've seen that.
Oh,
but that was
my
on
gosh.
That's on the TBS show.
Yeah, the TBS show.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's had some good stuff, and you know, obviously.
There's he on the TBS show. There's one of his writers or EPs is like this really bland person that's Jordan something, and he's like always like super uptight, and then Conan just does all this like hilarious shit to him, and the guy's just like doesn't respond or just looks like he's seething with anger. I think he opens like one of his sealed action figures that's worth like a bunch of money and just like plays with it and on his desk in front of him. Yeah, I don't know. I like Conan. I mean, I admit I don't watch late night shows, but I am subscribed to Team Coco on YouTube and watch his clips periodically. And yeah, it's The Daily Show then Conan for me.
Yeah, you know, I've late night TV is, I can kind of get through the monologue, but man, when they get real down into it with all the guests and stuff, I'm like, boring.
Yeah,
off.
That's fair. Well, anything else you want to talk about from 1993?
Oh boy, I think we just went right over our time there. Didn't we
did,
oh, well.
And I know we covered the X-Files at one point, so it felt like we didn't need to do that.
Yeah. It's just nice to know when these things actually happened.
We can talk about the failure of the Chevy Chase show in October of 93. And I'm sure we'll talk about Frasier at some point in the future too. But yeah, so that's our show for this week's edition of Namely 90s. I'm Brandon. That's Andrew. You can find us on Twitter at Namely 90s with the 90s, or find our personal accounts at bshwitty and at Namely Andrew, and tell us what you want us to talk about on future episodes. Remember, our episodes drop every Monday, so if you're subscribed, you can get it. If not, Apple Podcasts will just be like, you have to wait a few days until you show up. So if you leave us a review, maybe it'll show up sooner. You can also contact us through our website, namely90s.com, and please subscribe to us, like I said, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, Team Coco, Deezer, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and wherever you get your podcasts at. I'm Brandon, that is Andrew, and we will catch you next time.